Alrighty. Welcome, everyone, once again to this podcast.
Oh, no
Woot
turd
woot.
time?
No turd sandwiches this time. Turd sandwiches when I feel like having a turd sandwich. I don't feel like having a turd sandwich today.
All right.
But to jump into things, I've got a few stuff written down. Um, but I did want to mention one thing. It depends on when this goes up. This might go up this week, it might go up next week. For the listener, you don't really know this, but we've been backing up when we were going to record this. It's mostly my fault. Um, things were busy with work, and then a writing opportunity thing came up, and we were going to do it. We're recording on a Tuesday. We were going to do it last Friday. Um, Well, we were going to do it Thursday, actually. We are going to do it Thursday, and I was like, I kind of need to spend that day writing this thing. And then Thursday came, and I got everything else done that I needed to get done that Thursday, and it took me all of Thursday. But I got no time to write Thursday. So I was like, crap. So Friday, I'm going to have to write. And I was hoping I could get it all done before we recorded Friday. But that that did not work out. It is done though. It took that entire day for me to write this script, um, which I am pleased with. Like I won't go into too much detail, but essentially it's a whole comic script, but really it's a 6-page comic script, and it took me like 12 hours to write. Um, for just 6 pages, which is insane. But there's a reason it took me so long is the story is being told more than once, and so I needed to make sure everything lined up with the other similar versions of the story being told, essentially. Um, but yeah, I'd never spent that long on a short script. Like usually when it comes to comic writing or even like screenplay writing, my average time is I can knock out a page in 30 minutes. Like I can write a page of a comic within 30 minutes. That's average. Sometimes it's less than that, sometimes a little bit more. But yeah, this time for some reason it took a couple hours per page, but it's done. I'm happy with it. This morning I wrote an outline for the series, almost like a mini Bible, like script Bible, almost like a mini version of that to send to the different artists that are working on it.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased with it. And now I can just sit back. See, my work really was that Friday writing the script, and then coming up with this outline, this Bible. It took me yesterday and today. And now my work is done on this issue. And now, for something that in total took me less than 24 hours to completely come up with and write, is now going to take probably 10 plus hours per page for artists to do.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how that works. Because with the artist, I won't get into too much specifics. We were talking about with a Kickstarter for this, as well as like a future series with this, how the money would essentially go.
Yeah.
And someone had mentioned, well, like Brandon's writing the script, like he's writing the series itself, like maybe like he should get a little bit more. And I was like, well, my work, what I'm doing, even though yes, it's going to be the big thing, my work takes a lot less time than you guys work. So I was like, let's just do it all evenly split. We'll just do that. So it's going good. But I mention all that because this was just an idea that, and I hate having to be so vague about it, but I have to right now. There's an idea that last Monday, I was on a stream with these guys, and it was like 4 a.m. in the morning, and we were talking, and we came up with this idea. And from last Monday to now, and now art will probably start coming out about it. But I'm looking forward to it because we've already, if all of them are completely serious about this, we've already talked about doing Kickstarter, like multiple series for this universe, this world, as well as the main goal is get this first issue done, do a Kickstarter for it, and then have the books and us all go to Heroes Con in South Carolina next year and have the book there. But we will see how that goes. I have held up my end. Let's see if everyone else can do the same. But it's going good so far. I believe everyone can. But that's the stuff that's been going on with me right now that doesn't involve stuff I've been watching. I'll get to that later. But yeah. But aside from me just rambling and chatting this whole time, Teo, what have you been up to in the world?
Kind of the usual. School's been a little bit of a kick in the pants this term. I'm very tired. It's actually kind of why yesterday I asked if we could push recording to today, because I did not have the energy to record, and I needed to lay down for a while.
Yeah, I gotcha. Is one of your classes, isn't it, you said 20th century literature, or was that last semester?
20th century literature is this semester, yeah.
Okay. I was trying to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, it's just, it's been occupying a lot of time. Though over the past couple weeks since we last recorded, I have managed to consume some media. So
nice.
What all have I seen? I watched that 4-hour Jenny Nicholson video about the Star Wars hotel.
I did as well. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic.
I obviously couldn't do it all in one go, but like throughout 3, maybe 4 days, I was listening while I was doing work, and then sometimes just like sitting down and just watching it.
I listened while I was doing school, so I did end up doing it all in one go.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously I paused here and there to like take pee breaks and that, but yeah, the whole thing in one sitting, pretty much.
The comment I liked the most in the comment section was Disney spent $400 million on a Jenny Nicholson video.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty good. Speaking of comments, I looked at the comments to one of the Todd McFarlane audio clips.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the account who made the comment, but someone said Todd McFarlane talks like a 12-year-old with marbles in his mouth.
Yeah, I saw that one.
It's like, so if whoever made that comment, if you're listening right now, that was funny.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, there was another comment. I can't remember what it was. I thought it was entertaining, but it was some guy who talked about like he was high or something, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. Let's see if I can pull it up. He was talking about like how he was high and like he was just imagining that, like staring up in the ceiling. I could be completely wrong. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick. Where's this thing? Make sure my volume's down. Okay. I don't know how to, this is the guy's comment. I don't know how to explain this well, but for some beeping reason, I guess I got really high and wrote in my notes, what would you do if you got your wiener sucked by an adversary of hell? Hi, I'm Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn. And I had no idea why I had that in my notes, but it all makes sense today. I guess I was watching Spawn and got enamored with those goofy ass intros.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something else. But I'm trying to remember what I was about to say. Something with the podcast. I can't remember.
That's okay. It doesn't matter.
It does not matter at all. We continue with what you were saying.
I also watched with my family. I finally saw 1917.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I actually recently rewatched it on Memorial Day weekend with my dad.
Oh yeah, that's a fantastic movie.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think I've mentioned it before. Came out around the same time as Dunkirk. Dunkirk is good.
Yeah.
And yes, they are two separate wars.
Yeah.
But
I would say 1917 is probably the better of the two.
I think so as well. 1917 to me is
yeah.
It sounds mean to say a lot better. Dunkirk is good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I like Dunkirk, but I think between the two, 1917 is the obviously superior film.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. I recently trying to think the most. I won't do most recent thing I've seen, but I did see a couple movies in the theater recently, and both.
Look at you spending money and going outside.
Yes, losing all my money to disappointments.
Oh,
no, not huge disappointments. The one I'll mention first, I would say, was a huge disappointment. The Watchers, we had talked about before. M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, her first movie, which I didn't realize.
She didn't dethrone him.
She did not.
We were talking about before.
She made. Here's the thing. I don't think she made a lesser movie than him. I think Shyamalan's Not So Great Days, this fits in there or is slightly better or whatever. But it's still a very man movie. Yeah. It's I don't recommend watching it. I don't recommend watching The Watchers. I don't know. I didn't know before it was based on a book. She wrote the screenplay and she directed it, but it's based on some sort of book, obviously called The Watchers, I'm guessing. Here's the thing. I can do no spoilers, or I can do spoilers. It's completely up to you.
I'm okay with spoilers.
Okay. All right. Well, audience, I hope you're okay with spoilers as well. Don't waste 2 hours. Watch something else. It's not amazing. Go watch The Watchmen instead of The Watchers. Go watch that. That's better. It's a better movie than this. They're different, completely different movies, but go watch that.
Recommending a Zack Snyder movie, Brandon.
I actually don't think Watchmen is a bad movie.
Yeah, I like the Watchmen movie. I've still not read the comic, and I know that technically the movie is a bad adaptation of the comic because it misses the point. But whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they can both be cool for different reasons.
Yeah, like the biggest, I mean, other than thematic stuff, the biggest differences I see is like the movie, it's like it almost seems like everyone to a degree has like a superhuman strength almost, when that's not the case. And then there's also the whole thing that happens in New York that's completely different. It's not the big giant eyeball monster thingy.
Yeah, giant octopus with an eyeball.
Yeah. And then it mentions nothing of the pirate comic that's in Watchmen.
Unless you're watching the extended edition.
Oh, it does mention that? Okay.
Oh yeah, there are entire.
I guess I forgot.
There are entire animated segments in like the extended edition that depict like that pirate comic.
Oh, okay.
And there's
feel like
there's enough of it in the extended edition that they actually were able to release the full pirate thing as its own animated short film as a special feature on the DVDs.
Oh, dang. I feel like I've seen it now you mention it. I just don't remember. I'll have to go back and
Yep.
watch it eventually. But yeah, the Watchers though, I'll first mention the first 15 to 20 minutes was pretty bad.
Okay.
The first, and I'll say the reason I mention this is because I thought with this first 15 to 20 minutes that it might go into like Madam Web territory.
Oof, duh.
Yeah. I'm glad it didn't. It got better as it went along. But
That's
yeah,
the
the first
scary
15,
territory to go to.
yeah, the first 15 to 20 minutes, like there's just like some issues. Like one of the first issues I had is the first 5 minutes of the movie, like a character, it's like a character you don't really see much in the movie. You see him like a little bit here and there,
Yeah.
but he's wandering through the woods. He's like, seems like he's running from something, and it's extremely dark. Like you can barely see what's going on. And I thought it was like the theater projector or something. But then 10 minutes later, we're with Dakota Fanning's character and it's like daylight. And I'm like, oh, no. Like it's okay. It's not the projector. It's just they shot that extremely dark or edited extremely dark to where it's like you're squinting trying to see because the character climbs up a tree and he falls out of the tree and you can barely see him fall out of the tree. You're like, I heard a crunch noise. Did he fall out the tree? I can't tell. It's so freaking dark.
Men falling out of trees.
Well, I was very frustrated there. And then the dialogue was kind of bad in the first 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
Like,
so she got something from her dad.
Yeah, that's true. She's only been studying her dad's movies. That's what it feels like this whole movie is. She's just studied her dad's movies, no one else's.
Miss Shyamalan, what are your favorite movies? Oh well, obviously Signs, The Happening,
Lady
and
in
I'm
the
a huge
Water.
fan of Tommy Wiseau's The Room.
The man's a genius. But yeah, the dialogue with the guy at first when he's running through the woods for the first 5 minutes or so and it's completely dark, it's so. There's one line he says at the end before, spoiler alert, he dies or whatever. I don't know, it was a line I didn't like. It felt amateur. But then as the plot went on, I was like, okay, I guess I can kind of forgive the line. Basically what happens, he's like leaned up against a tree because he's fallen out the tree and he's running away and stuff. He's got broken ankles or something. He's leaned up against a tree and like this, you don't see it, but this creature, essentially a watcher or something, is coming near him. And you're focused on the guy's face. You don't see the creature. And the guy's like, that's impossible. And like the creature gets him. And when I heard that's impossible, I was like, I've heard that line too many times in like not great scripts when it comes to something like this. Like no offense, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, but I'm almost certain I wrote that line for a character who got killed in a similar way in a horror script I wrote like 5 to 7 years ago. When I was fairly new at writing. I'm still not like great at writing. Don't get me twisted. Like I've improved though. I was completely crappy and now I'm a little less crappy to where I can at least notice some of my bad writing from before. Or bad dialogue, I should say. But yeah, so there's that. And then my biggest issue with the dialogue, the first 15, 20 minutes, is Dakota Fanning's character works at like a pet shop or something. And the boss basically is like, hey, like, you've been through some stuff. Why don't you take a break? Get out of town, or I can't remember exactly what he says. I think he may say like, here's this bird, here's this parakeet. I need you to drop it off to someone. I think that may have been it. I think that's why she's in the woods. I can't remember. But anyway, like, for the next 10 to 15 minutes, anytime there's dialogue, it's her talking to the parakeet, and it feels like so forced exposition
For 20
because she
minutes?
like do what?
For 20 minutes?
For like 10 to 15 minutes at least. Like she hasn't ran into anyone. This is just her like in her apartment, and she's driving on the road, and she gets in the woods, like all this stuff with her and this parakeet which is in a cage, the parakeet is. And yeah, she's just like, it's just us as the audience, so we can know who this character is in like the most unnatural way ever. We're just like, yeah, I know this isn't a line in the movie, but it's essentially like, yeah, my mom's dead. Did you know that? Stuff like
that. just immediately bearing your soul to a parrot.
Yeah. And
the
yeah,
parrot
it's
responds
just
with,
weird.
Sad. Tell me more.
Yeah, and then there was like I remember there's one part. Oh, there's one part where this is her driving. She stops at like a gas station or something. She's like taking deep breaths, and she listens to a voicemail. And the voicemail is from her twin sister. It's just Dakota Fanning speaking.
Yeah.
But it's her twin sister, and it's a voicemail that just explains the exposition. It's just like, hey sis, like, I know things have been tough with mom being dead and all, and you're still beating yourself up about it, and you're blaming yourself, but you got to move past it. You got to move past mom dying. It wasn't your fault. Like, this sort of stuff. And it's like, come on, like, you can write this better. Like, you can write explaining the character better than this.
Yeah, that's pretty.
And then
pretty
I'd
basic.
say it. Yeah. Overall, like, I did not like the first 15, 20 minutes. Once Dakota Fanning eventually meets the people that are in that little shelter in the trailer, once she meets them, it gets better. But then it's just like a roller coaster of like good to meh to good to meh, like the rest of the movie. And then there's points in the movie where like it seems like this is a good ending, and then oh nope, like we have a 20 to 30 minute epilogue. And it's like, what are you doing? I know that's probably a thing in the book, but like on screen, this doesn't work. Yeah, and also, like, I'd mentioned the dialogue was bad the first 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It gets less noticeable throughout the movie. There weren't times where I was like pointing it out or anything, but here and there was like, that was so. But yeah. Oh, another big issue I had with it is most people, if you have a brain, can deduce the twist at the end by the halfway point of the movie. So you're just like waiting for it's just like, okay, like I know this character is this or whatever. It's like, just say it already. Why did you wait to the very end to tell us this? We knew this. We were 99% sure this was the thing. So I was frustrated about that, because it's not like, oh, Brandon's intelligent, he deduced the twist by the halfway point. No, anyone would have been able to deduce this twist by the halfway point. It was just very frustrating that it just kept going with it. Like, this character I don't want you watching the movie, so I'm just going to spoil it. One of the characters that she's with is a Watcher.
Okay.
Watchers are
Well, they're
that's
the
also
guys
like
who
a
watch all the events throughout the multiverse and
yeah
record it for some reason that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby never actually came up with, I think. So it's like,
yeah
I'm pretty sure we still don't know why the Watchers watch.
yeah. They're just entertained. I don't think it's like we're trying to save the universe thing. I think it's just like this is interesting.
Yeah, Uatu is just sitting there between the universes like, hey, you. Yeah, you, come over here. Check this shit out. What if Captain America's fingers were shaped like penises? But just Captain America.
It was just Captain America.
He's the only one with penis fingers.
And all the plot points that happened previously in the universe, they happen.
Yeah.
But it's what if he had penis fingers?
What if he had penis fingers? I'm sure Peggy was pretty happy with that.
Yeah. But yeah, because I don't want people to go watch this. Sorry, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. You didn't do an awful job. This isn't a bad movie. It's just a man movie.
You can't be that sorry. You don't even remember her name.
I don't want to butcher it. It starts with an I. I can't remember exactly though.
All right, hang on. My computer's right in front of me. I'm going to Google it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't remember how to spell it, but I know it starts with an I. But yeah, I was rooting for you. I was rooting for you with this movie, but it might be Ashana. This is just off the top of my head. I can't see the word in front of me.
I'm looking at it.
All right.
Ishana Night Shyamalan. Yes, you were correct.
Okay. Ooh.
Written by Ishana Night Shyamalan, based on The Watchers by A.M. Shine. Produced by M. Night Shyamalan, Ashwin Rajan, and Namit Mankad. It's a lot of Indian names there.
It's a lot of names on like the. Is that on the poster or
that is on the Wikipedia article?
Okay. I was just imagining that was like the
big
names on the
Ireland.
Yeah. Because a big thing is it's in Ireland. Which is kind of cool. It takes some of like Irish folklore dealing with like fairies and stuff.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Watchers are fairies.
Yeah, I just saw that in the article.
Yeah.
Shape-shifting fairies, so like doppelgangers?
They can eventually do that. Yeah. Okay. They can eventually do that. That's spoiler, that's the reason they're watching people, is so that they can learn better.
Something that's semi-common with Celtic Fae lore is that the Fae will sometimes like abduct children and replace them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but that's a big part of why it's called the Watchers, is they watch the people so that they can like more mimic them.
This had to have been just updated today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm looking at the reception section, and box office is already stating as of June 11th, which is today, like while we're recording. It says, as of June 11th, 2024, The Watchers has grossed $7.7 million in the United States and Canada, and $4.6 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $12.3 million. In the United States and Canada, The Watchers was released alongside Bad Boys Ride or Die, and and was projected to gross around $8 to $10 million from 3,350 theaters in its opening weekend. The film made $2.9 million on its first day, including $1 million from Thursday night previews. It went on to debut to $7 million, finishing in fourth.
Ooh.
Critical response. I'll let you finish your review before we look at critical response.
No, you're good. I was just thinking, I don't know what the budget is, but off the top of my head, what I saw, as well as like how Hollywood is nowadays, I assume it's maybe like a $20 million budget.
Okay, hang on, that's box office. Yeah, I don't see anything about a budget on the Wikipedia article. Yeah, it is weird how KG Hollywood's been getting about budgets lately, like not revealing them.
Yeah. But yeah, essentially, Watchers are the fairies, and they're learning, and you learn a good bit about the lore and stuff. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And all that. But there's there's like a myth essentially that like a halfling was would was born at some point, like half human, half fairy.
Yeah. Okay.
And spoiler alert, the old lady you see in the trailer, she's a halfling.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. And halfling, so regular fairies, regular watchers can only stay within the forest. Like they're not able to leave the forest through like some runes and like different stuff that's like trapped them in the forest essentially.
That sounds about right.
Halfling, however, can leave the forest. They just don't know how to get out. And so our characters help her get out. And then later, through the epilogue, they realize and find out like, oh, she's the halfling. Even though this entire time, you as the audience member, you're like, wait, she's the halfling, right? Because we saw like they go down, they eventually find a bunker in that little watcher room that you see in the trailer. They find a bunker that goes down, and it was this scientist, this professor who was doing research on them and stuff, and eventually he goes crazy and he gets killed by one. But he caught the halfling, and he brought it.
It was Professor Psychotic making a homunculus by injecting his DNA into an egg.
But
that's the other thing I did this week, is I caught up on Smiling Friends.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I got to do that eventually. But yeah, he eventually captures one of the watchers, and it happens to be the halfling. And it's in there with him. He's got it locked up and stuff. And it's learning, basically. Yeah. And his wife back home is the old lady. Like, that is a real person. But this halfling has like seen pictures or videos of her while it's been captured, to where it eventually mimics his wife.
Okay.
So yeah, but it's a man movie. I explained all that just because, like, yeah, it's man. If it was better, I would have not spoiled anything. But it is what it is.
All right.
I only lost out on like $16 to $20. It was me and my brother I went with. I had to pay for his ticket.
I'm going to go over critical reception now.
Okay.
So according to the Wikipedia article, the film received negative reviews. on the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes. Excuse me, I'm drinking a Coke right now. That's why I'm so gassy.
Nice.
On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 30% of 122 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 4.6 out of 10. The website's consensus reads, heavy on eerie mood but undone by an obtuse script, the watchers can only hold the gaze for so long before tedium sets in.
I'd agree.
Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 44 out of 100 based on 34 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of C- on an A+ to F scale, while those polled by PostTrack gave it a 51% overall positive score. That's still an F, I believe. Several critics negatively compared Shyamalan's style to her father's.
Yeah.
Dylan Roth of The Observer commended the Shyamalan family for never obscuring the nepotism at play during the press tour, but wrote, "The Watchers did not convince me of much. Worse, it is precisely what I'm sure the young director hoped it wouldn't be, a pale imitation of her father's patented style." Relish Mix, which analyzes activity across social media platforms to summarize the public's general responses to a film's marketing, said it received 9% more attention than first installment Horror Norms, but that negative convo on the watchers is limited to those turned off by M. Night Shyamalan's involvement as a producer after being dissatisfied with many of his past cinematic ventures. In a similarly negative but contrasting review, Bob Strauss of the San Francisco Chronicle wrote, "There's an inelegant blend of Celtic folklore thriller and contemporary horror movie tropes that renders the results unsatisfying for fans of either genre, and yet Shyamalan proves herself a proficient director throughout most of this slog." In a mixed review for AV Club, Katie Reif concluded, "The Watchers is clearly a first film, with the promise of and the problems that come with it." Michael Phillips' review for Chicago Tribune was generally positive, writing, "The director works well with cinematographer Eli Aronson, Eli Aronson, to envelop the chamber-sized ensemble in various shades of dread or comfort." So it sounds pretty much in line with what you were talking about.
Yeah. Because I was just trying to think, like, what are the times where it's the most interesting? It's all over the place. Because I was going to say it's mostly stuff in the bunker, but then there's some stuff in the bunker I thought was like boring, or I was tired of people arguing or whatever. And then the flip side, there's a lot of stuff in the forest that is extremely boring. But then there's some nuggets here and there where I'm like, ooh, you got something there.
A nugget.
And then a couple of the reviews kind of talked about with like the doing a little bit of this folklore and like mythicness and folklore, and then also doing a little bit this horror. It slightly fails on both attempts, especially with the horror. Like there's definitely attempts at horror here, but it's I don't know, whether it's sound or the way it's shot or the way it's written, it never truly comes off as scary.
Or the way it's directed, or the way it's
Yeah.
acted, or the way it's marketed, or the way it's produced, or the way it's color graded, or the way it's sound mixed, or the way it's just going down everything.
Just go down the whole thing. The way the craft service guy was there, the way that
they couldn't get George Miller off the set. He was running around naked. It's me off week after filming Furiosa. Digging around an island, eating up all the grubs.
Yeah, it's one of those things where someone had mentioned like they didn't like that, or people would be turned off that M. Night Shyamalan's name was attached to it. But I'd say that's the only way this would have got made. Yes, she has a Shyamalan name, but the movie itself, the story would not have got made, or I should say would have not got, I'm assuming, a $15-20 million budget, maybe a little bit more. It wouldn't have got that much money if Shyamalan was not attached to it. But here's the thing. Overall, yes, the movie's very meh, but if I'm looking at it from, yes, there's nepotism here, clearly, but if I'm looking at it from like a dad supporting his daughter, I kind of like it, but I don't know. I like the support that's there.
Yeah.
But also with some of the writing and stuff, like it's almost like he was worried maybe to say, hey, it's not ready yet, or you're not ready yet.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people consider nepotism an inherent negative, but I disagree with that.
No, yeah. I don't think it's
firstly, like Hollywood was built on nepotism to begin with. Like it is.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
Through the good and the bad, it's always been nepotism.
Yeah.
Like nobody is in Hollywood on raw talent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know someone, and you likely have a family member who has been in it before.
Yeah. Or you're willing to let a director have sex with you.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no. So, regardless, my impression is that
based on this movie, the general consensus is that she's a competent director. She just needs the opportunity to improve.
Yeah.
And you're never gonna get your first movie unless you get your first movie. You know what I mean? Like
That's true. And that's the thing I'll commend her on is like, hey, she got like not only a feature film greenlit, like it's a feature film that like got in all theaters basically. Like,
yeah,
good on you for doing that for your first big movie. I'm sure you've done like maybe some short films or even like small college features or something. Me personally, I think it would have been a better route. Uh, it is based off of a book, so like, if it was too small, the person who owns the book or whatever probably would have been like, no, I'm not licensing my book for
yeah,
you to do this small movie. So, because I was about to say like, what probably would have been better is to do a smaller scaled version of this on like a $1-2 million budget at most. She's a first time director, and also 1 to 2 million isn't like nothing to like look away at. That's a lot,
yeah,
especially for like your first movie. And yes, she has the Shyamalan name. Yes, she has that, but it is her first movie, and I think you need to rein back that budget so that she can make it. And yes, it probably would have been the same like status it is now of like, it was mad, and also it wouldn't be in all these theaters and stuff, but it would be a growing step for her. She'd
yeah,
learn from it. People have seen it, but not a lot of people have seen it. It'd be more like a film festival type movie. And then her next movie or her third movie, that's the one where people are investing tens of $1 million in. And now like she's gotten better over time. So they feel more comfortable doing it. And then that's the movie that everyone knows her for, because we haven't seen or heard of these past two movies that cost her $1 million or whatever.
yeah,
And we see that movie and it's like, oh, that was actually pretty good. And most people think it's her first movie because it's the first movie that's played in nationwide theaters.
yeah.
I think I'm not trying to offer parenting advice or anything like that. She's had an opportunity. She took it. Good on her. Um, I just think I believe in the Shyamalans. I know not everyone does. I believe in the Shyamalans, and I think this
That's
could be a thing that holds her back for a little bit.
This could also just be a part of M. Night Shyamalan's master plan that we worked out.
Yes.
On our previous episodes. We're on to you, M. Whatever that M stands for, I don't know.
We know this plan. It's for mastermind. M's for mastermind.
Mastermind Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
This is all a part of his master plan.
Yes. Or it stands for Megalopolis, and he's going to sue somehow, some way. He's going to sue Francis Ford Coppola. Be like, hey, what are you doing? I had this grand plan in mind that dealt with my name being Megalopolis, and I was going to make a movie called Megalopolis. And then here you go, making your stinking New York Rome movie. I had something great for my 30-year plan, Francis Ford Coppola. And then there's beef between the two.
And it only ends when one of them kills the other.
Yes.
In their epic final battle.
And all of this is a part of the Megalopolis movie experience.
Yes.
You see the movie, and then at the end, people have talked about like a fourth wall breaking moment of like character talking to the screen or whatever. There's that, and then Francis Ford Coppola and M. Night Shyamalan come out into your auditorium and start beating the crap out of each other. It's Peter Griffin and the chicken, but it's M. Night Shyamalan and Francis Ford Coppola in your movie theater. And you're like, my God, this is the greatest movie of all time. It changes the way we look at cinema. But yeah, that's The Watchers. It's a movie.
It came
If
out.
if I had to rate it, I'm rating it based on like the modern day ratings. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Nowadays, modern day ratings, a 5 out of 10 is meh. Average is usually, it depends on who the crap is rating nowadays. Average is usually like 6, 6.5. I'd give this a 5. I'd give this a meh.
Alrighty.
But yeah. Then I saw another movie. I saw a horror movie that I actually liked a lot.
Okay.
We had talked about it some a couple weeks back. It's called In a Violent Nature, and
Okay,
it's the slasher movie where you're following the slasher killer's perspective. And
Mr.
I
Slasher.
saw it. What were you saying?
Mr. Slasher Killer.
Yes, Mr. His name. What was his name in this? Johnny was his name. Because you have like Jason. This guy's name is Johnny. It's very inspired by Jason. People have said other names. So I was like, it's clearly Friday the 13th. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about, lunatic? Are you a fool?
But so backstory with this, me and my sister were going to go see this, and then a couple of the college kids at my church like heard about me talk about it, and they were like, "Hey, like, do you mind if we go?" I was like,
Yes.
"I guess, yeah, I guess that's fine. Like, you're in college, you're not little kids because this is rated R. It's going to be kind of gruesome.
I'm not your dad.
I'm not your dad. You're over 18. You can make your own choices." So it's like, okay, yeah, sure. So I go see it with them, and it was my sister, me, and then 3 of the college kids. 2 of them I
Burst
knew
into
from the
tears?
beginning. What'd you say?
2 of them burst into tears.
Well, 2 of them I knew from the beginning that they were going to hate this movie.
Okay.
Like, they wanted to go see it. It's not my fault. But I knew they were going to hate this movie. They like horror movies, but they like stuff like The Nun. I like Insidious, but they like Insidious. They like the jump scare.
They're into the jump scary possession type stuff. They're not into
Yes.
they're not into slashers.
Yes. And maybe they are into slashers, but I don't think they're used to gore. Or gore like this, I should say, in their horror movies. And then the other one was a wild card. I didn't know if he was going to like it or not. I felt like he might have. But yeah, we went into it, and not only like did I think they were going to hate it because it's a slasher, I knew this movie was going to be slow. And I know that those 2 hate slow movies, especially slow horror movies, because they like stuff like The Nun or stuff like that, where it's we get to the next scare, and you're exhausted by the end. But obviously, a lot of people love that because it makes so much money. But so with this movie, I like this. I know it's very divisive right now. It's one of the most divisive horror movies of this year. Probably 40% of the movie, if not more, maybe 50% of the movie, is the killer just walking. I kind of like it though.
I was gonna say I would be a little skeptical of that, but as I said, I did just watch 1917 for the first time over the weekend, And about 90% of that movie is just the two dudes walking.
That's true. This one, though, there's longer bits of walking.
Yeah.
In total, in terms of kills in the movie, because this isn't a spoiler, it's basically Friday the 13th. In terms of kills, I think he kills 8 or 9 people, no
Okay.
more than 10. And so, like, it's an hour and 30 minutes. You're probably going to get a kill about every, at least for the first 30 to 40 minutes, about every 10 minutes, maybe.
So I was going to ask. Here's my question:
Yeah.
Is every part of the movie where he's not killing someone him walking between kills?
Essentially, yes.
Oh my god!
Essentially, yes. Not all the time, because sometimes there's characters that are close together when he's killing. But yes. And at first I was watching it, and I overall did like it, but I was kind of thinking like, oh, is this going to be like some like obnoxious filmmaking type thing? But then I realized what the filmmaker was going for, at least the first hour and 10 minutes. I'm trying to remember what he does. The killer, okay, he's standing at the edge of a lake, and there's 2 girls who are like, one standing on a dock across the lake, and the other's like swimming in the water near the dock.
Yeah.
And our killer sees them. And the reason our killer's like killing is he was awakened. Like, he was reborn because one of them took this like locket that was placed on this pipe and took the locket, and essentially it awakened him.
You kids are making too much damn noise. You woke me up.
But they took this locket that like treasures him, or he treasures, as well as it like keeps him in the ground. But they took it, it awakened him, and his whole goal, he just wants the locket. He's going to kill you. He wants that locket, though. But yeah, so he's standing across the lake, and he does like a classic like slasher Jason type, where he's walking into the lake, and you see his head go under the water, where he's basically, it's like, oh, so he's just walking on the floor of the lake, like the bed of the lake, because you just see water, you don't see him anymore. Before that, the reason I had mentioned this scene is he had a couple weapons. One of the weapons was an axe, or like a hatchet, and he puts the hatchet into a log because he doesn't want to take it with him in the water, I guess. He puts it in the log, and then he goes into the lake, goes and kills this girl, and then kills another girl who's near her, which is one of the best kills I've seen. If anyone, Teo, if you want to look up In a Violent Nature yoga girl kill, great kill in a slasher movie. It's so gruesome and inventive. He has this hook, and he punches his fist through her stomach.
Oh.
Or through her back, I can't remember. Punches through her stomach, and then he brings the hook / chain, he brings it through her stomach, hooks it into her head, and then starts pulling the chain, and basically pulling her like neck / head through her stomach, through the hole in her stomach.
Yeah.
It's horrifying to watch. And I was because we were watching it with these 2 people that like the regular horror movies nowadays, I was just laughing the entire time it was happening because I was just imagining what they were thinking in that moment. Because it's such a gruesome kill. It's one of the most gruesome kills I've seen in a long time. But anyway, so that happens. I mentioned all that. He kills those 2 girls, and then it's like, okay, so like, where's he going to go now? he starts walking, and he's walking for a few minutes probably. And he's walking for this like 4 to 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, all to go back to get that hatchet he left in that log. he wanted to go get his hatchet and then go killing it. When that happened, I was like, oh my God, I love this. Overall, I like the movie if you cut out the last 20 minutes. I hate the last 20 minutes. It almost ruins the movie for me.
Okay.
Already the movie is kind of slow, but I like it. Like him walking for like 40% of the movie to the next
Kinda
victim,
slow, but
essentially.
I like it. How my ex-wife used to describe me.
But the last 20 minutes, essentially you have your final girl. Like in any horror movie, any slasher movie, you have your final girl, and our killer isn't dead. I want you to keep this in mind, but it shifts to her perspective. This whole time we've been following the killer's perspective.
Yeah.
Then the last 20 minutes shifts to the final girl's perspective, and I hate all of it.
Oh.
Because it's so boring. You don't see the killer at all that last 20 minutes. There's a good chunk of time where she's running in the woods in the dark. Then eventually she runs out to a dirt road. There's an old lady in a pickup truck that drives by, and the girl gets in the pickup truck. And then there's like, in the pickup truck, it's like 10 minutes of conversation maybe. And it's the most boring conversation ever that this old lady is trying to have with her. And the whole time it's just building. The past like 10, 15 minutes, it's just building and building in your head. And you're like tapping your foot because you're like, oh, come on, kill this lady. Something happened. This sounds horrible to say, but I wanted this old lady dead so bad. But and I was just like, the killer, he's probably in the tailgate, he's probably in the truck bed, and soon he'll like pop out and then like kill the lady, and they'll veer off the road, or he'll pop out on the street and kill him, or they're pulling over right now. Okay, they're pulling over, they're getting out, they're looking at the woods and stuff. Oh, he's going to appear at any point to kill him. Nothing.
They just keep going. This
Keeps going, and that's the end.
really, that's, I don't know. Actually, that sounds like an interesting way to end it.
Here's the thing. It's interesting, and I get what the filmmaker was going for, but there's an error that I had with this. So it's not truly the ending. So it has them looking in the woods. And then it shows previously, before the final girl ran away from the killer, she left a gas can, and she left the locket hanging off of the gas can where the killer was.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, like with this ending that's going on, it's like, okay, and I should say it now goes back to the gas can after this time has passed, and the locket is no longer there. So it's like, okay, the killer just wanted the locket.
Yeah.
He went back. I'm okay with that. The issue is, previously in the movie, we had a character like a park ranger who had dealt with this killer like a decade ago. And the park ranger, I remember saying, because one of the characters, like, he reveals like the whole locket thing, and they're like, oh, well, like, let's just go put the locket back. And he's like, it doesn't work. Like you can't put it back. He's still going to kill you. You can't give him the locket. Like, he's still going to kill. And clearly it seems like he's experienced this. And then you have this ending where it's like, no, everything we just mentioned before about this lore with a story that happened a decade ago. No, nope. He just gets the locket. That was my issue, because like, that's not what happened previously. That's not what the guy talked about.
Yeah.
He said giving him the locket, like, yes, he wants the locket, but he's still going to kill you. So that was my big issue with that. As well as like just the dialogue with the old lady. So boring. So boring.
So
Just tapping my foot.
do you come around here often?
She was talking about, and maybe the filmmaker thought it was smart to do this or something. I think it was stupid. She was essentially talking about like she gives a so long-winded story about like a bear or something that like killed someone she knew or whatever.
Yeah.
And how essentially animals are just that. They're animals. They'll just do what they want. And it's supposed to be a metaphor for our killer. I get that. You could have shrunk that story down so much more. As well as you didn't even have to tell the story. We understood that throughout this whole entire movie. The movie was that. The movie was he's just going to do what he wants to do. So that's the reason I dislike the last 20 minutes so much. Other than that, I personally really like the first hour and 10 minutes. So maybe a fan of this movie who feels the same way as me will make a fan edit to where you don't even have to have the old lady die, but you cut that last 20 minutes down a lot, or you just get rid of it.
Okay.
Someone fan edit that, and I'll love that.
Here's what you do: you make a fan edit where it's almost exactly the same, except the reason they pull over and everything is because they're having engine trouble. It's like, oh, what's with the engine? They go check under the hood. The killer was posing as the engine of the car and then waiting for them to open it up, and then he jumps out and he kills them. he was pretending, and like you edit over the original audio so that it sounds like a guy going brum, bum, 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 the whole time until they finally pull over because he starts going like making
oh, sounds like our engine's going out.
Sounds like our engine's going out, and then he jumps out. He's like, I was the engine. That kills them.
I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. But yeah, as much as the ending nearly ruins the movie for me, I like how different this movie is. It's unlike any horror movie I've seen, and not everyone's going to feel the same way about me. I think everyone will agree, though. It's unlike any horror movie you'll see. That could be bad for you, though. You could be like, I don't want to see 30 to 45% of a movie of a guy just walking through the woods to the next person or to the next group of people where you like, I thought that was kind of interesting of you overhear the plot happening essentially.
Yeah.
Because he's from a distance. So you overhear the conversations they're having and stuff like that. I thought that was very interesting. But yeah, it's I think they might make more of these, and I'm okay with that as long as they don't do any of this crap at the ending. Kill that old lady. I understand some horror fans are happy about the old lady because it's like, oh, it's this lady from Friday the 13th Part 2. I don't give a crap. I hated this character.
I don't care.
I hated her conversation about the bear. It was so boring. Because I had followed this stupid final girl for the past 10 minutes running in the woods. Like, I'm already bored by that. I want to watch the killer walk through the woods. I want to hear his soothing footsteps crunch on leaves as he's walking through the woods. Because I thought it was actually a pretty good way to describe the movie. Someone online said that this is the most soothing slasher movie they've ever seen. And that sounds very weird. But when you watch it, you're like, I get what this person is saying. Because in between those kills and stuff, it is beautiful. Like when he's walking through the woods or walking through a field and all you hear, the audio guy, I know Oscars aren't going to pay attention to this movie at all. This should be nominated for sound, best sound, because just the crunching of the ground when the guy's walking, it almost puts you in it's almost like a metronome. It's like tick, 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 where like you get like entranced in it almost.
Yeah.
And that can be good, or you can hate that.
It's a slasher movie Sleep Aid. Oh,
yes.
Where you are the slasher. So it's just extended periods of walking through the woods, occasionally broken up with, "Oh God, please don't kill me."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because like it's it's literally like a Friday the 13th movie playing out. It's just those times when the killer isn't around them. Like, this is what he's doing. He's walking to you. He's walking to the next person to kill. Like, that's what's going on. And then like the last 30 minutes, there's more frequent kills because you're all together and you're trying to stop him or run away from him. It's entertaining. Not everyone's going to like this movie. If you like standard horror movie, you're going to hate this movie. Even if you like the more weird or even artsy horror movies, you might still be 50-50 on this movie. But the first hour and 10 minutes, I liked a good bit. And some of the kills were pretty interesting. But that's In a Violent Nature. Most soothing horror movie of the year.
That sounds very interesting. And I may watch that movie someday, but I'm not super into slashers myself.
Yeah, yeah.
I've gone on record saying I'm pretty particular about my horror, and I tend to favor gothic and cosmic horror over like slashers and possession stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. I get that. And I recommend if anyone ever goes to watch this movie, obviously I don't think it's in theaters anymore. But if you ever want to watch this movie, I kind of recommend maybe watching like Friday the 13th Part 2 or Part 3 and then watching this, almost so you can see like how a slasher movie usually is, and then now here's the perspective shift. That way like you enjoy it more because you're like, oh, like, yeah, that's the stupid stuff that they're talking about in this other slasher movie and stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting exploration of a genre. Basically, it's doing that thing where you can't properly appreciate it if you don't already know what's up with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like how kind of going back to superheroes, how the Watchmen can only really be appreciated if you are already intimately familiar with superheroes and how they work.
Yes, yes.
And how it's similar to Invincible as well. Invincible can only really be properly appreciated by people who are already into superheroes.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say Invincible and Watchmen can both really only be appreciated by people who have burnt out on superheroes at some point.
I'd agree. I'd agree with both points. But
would you say that's true for In a Violent Nature about slashers? That it can really only be properly appreciated by people who may have burnt out on the genre?
I think you can like it without really watching slashers. I think it's rare, but I think it is possible. But I think you will likely enjoy it more if you have been introduced or seen a typical slasher before, like Friday the 13th Part 2 or 3. You'll enjoy it more because you see what it's doing. You see like in terms of us knowing the knowledge of a slasher, you see like the meta-ness of that and the cleverness of using the killer in that way. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. Yeah, you mentioning Watchmen, like I think Alan Moore has even talked about before, like the book itself, you can enjoy it without reading superhero comics before, but there's a lot that like you won't like thoroughly enjoy if you haven't like read superhero comics before. Same with In a Violent Nature. You can possibly enjoy it without seeing slashers, but there's a lot you're going to miss if you haven't seen slashers.
Yeah, and also based on the way you described it, I would worry for the sort of person who has never seen a slasher and enjoys that movie.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, it's just a guy going around killing people. It's great.
I'd be like, if that's what you're looking for, I got a feeling there's other movies, but I'm not going to recommend them to you because this is going down a scary path the way you're talking.
Yeah. Let me guess, you enjoyed the video game Hatred when it came out.
Let me guess, you enjoyed what's that Rockstar game? Is it Mayhem?
Is it
Not
Postal?
Mayhem.
Are you thinking of Postal?
No.
Didn't they do Postal?
One.
What am I thinking?
It starts with an M. You're like a serial
Manhunt.
killer or something. Manhunt. Thank you.
Yeah. I've never played Manhunt. I kind of want to because I heard that it's actually kind of an now this might just be video game nerds blowing smoke up my butthole, but I have heard that it actually kind of makes a little bit of like an insightful critique of the presentation of violence in media. But it also is a presentation of violence in media, so it's it's one of those things where it's like it's kind of the Kill a Kill problem. Is it a tasteful critique of fan service, or is it just an excuse for more fan service in anime? Yeah,
that's true.
You know what I mean? You ever see Kill a Kill?
Yeah. No, I've heard some stuff about it though.
Yeah. That's one of those ones where it's like it rides the line between being this really intelligent exploration of the nature of like physical sexuality and like fan service in anime, and also just being exactly that, like unironically.
Yeah.
This is an interesting conversation. this whole, because like I am very into the idea of deconstructive media, but the thing, like the problem with that is you have to be familiar with what it's deconstructing to get it.
Yeah, to get all of it, because like I mentioned before with Watchmen, you can enjoy Watchmen without reading the superhero comic, but you'll enjoy it a lot more, as well as there's parts where you'll get more instead of it just being like, why is this there? Like if you haven't read a superhero comic before, any of the pirate comic stuff, you're just like, why is this here? Let's get back to the story.
Yeah.
Whereas the pirate stuff, that's this universe's superhero comics.
Yeah.
So it's big because superheroes are already a thing in this. So pirates is the thing.
I was going to say, in a world where superheroes exist, superhero comics aren't escapist fantasy anymore.
Yeah. Pirates are the thing. And that's what's interesting about Tom King's Rorschach, because that's technically a sequel to Watchmen.
One of the 5 sequels now?
Yeah. And here's the thing. What's weird is technically, canonically, there is Alan Moore's Watchmen. Then after that, there's the HBO show Watchmen. Yep. And then after that, Rorschach. Because Rorschach has 1 or 2 lines about something that happens in the HBO show. So it's like, oh, that's canon.
I was gonna say, like, I got the impression that those were parallel sequels, not like one after the other in the same timeline.
No, they're in the same timeline.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I thought that was interesting when I read Rorschach. It's only 1 or 2 lines just in the book, just randomly. It's just we're conversation, and you mentioned something that happened in the place that the HBO show takes place. It's like, oh, like that happened. Okay. But I forgot where I was going with Rorschach. Like it gets into the pirate comics being a big thing, where we're in Rorschach, because that takes place like the year 2020 or 2021 or whatever. Just no COVID. There's no COVID.
Yeah. Well, it's an alternate timeline.
It's alternate timeline, alternate universe. They didn't get COVID. Essentially they have like an MCU type thing, but it's pirates.
That's interesting.
And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun exploration. So, okay, does that mean Doomsday Clock is canon to the HBO Watchmen show technically?
No, Doomsday Clock is not canon.
Okay, so actual canon DC comics are not canon to the Watchmen timeline.
Well, that's the thing is like overall, I like Doomsday Clock, but I think it's one of those cases because DC does this all the time. It's like if a story gets forgotten or like we liked it, we just don't care anymore, they'll just be like, okay, that's non-canon or that doesn't matter. I think that's the case with Doomsday Clock.
Okay.
In terms of
it's
so weird.
That's
in
personally
terms of,
upsetting to me because of
it's weird.
how much it explained about literally everything about the post Flashpoint timeline.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Okay, it's so weird. I think Doomsday Clock is canon in the DC universe. This is going to sound weird. I don't know if it's canon in what Watchmen has going on.
Okay. Well, I mean, technically it couldn't be because it mostly takes place in the DC universe, right?
That's true. Yeah. So
and
I guess
it's
really
it's kind of about how Dr. Manhattan took advantage of the vulnerable state of the DC timeline to mess with it a little bit just to see what would happen. And then so like he wasn't really messing with the Watchmen timeline anyway. He was outside of it messing with a different superhero universe.
Yeah,
so
that's
it
true.
makes
Think
sense
about
that it wouldn't be canon to the Watchmen while
well,
still
now
incorporating
thinking
Watchmen
about it,
characters.
because most of it does take place in the DC universe, and it doesn't really muddle with anything with the Watchmen HBO series or Rorschach, I guess you could say it's still canon in those because it doesn't really muddle with any of that stuff. So, yeah,
this interesting conversation turned into a weird one.
I'm trying to think. I guess your timeline for not thinking about DC timeline, thinking about Watchmen timeline. You have Alan Moore's Watchmen.
Yeah.
Then you have, I would say, it can't be exactly the same time because Dr. Manhattan is in the HBO show.
Yeah.
And he is in Doomsday Clock. Maybe a year apart or a couple years apart, you have Doomsday Clock and the Watchmen show, and then Rorschach. Rorschach is the last one.
Okay. But if you want to go backwards in the timeline, there's before Watchmen.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to go back that far.
Yeah.
But going back to the topic of like deconstructed media though, Alan Moore, I think he's mentioned in interviews before because people are always interviewing him about something. Leave me alone. Yeah. I want to live in a hut. Anyway.
I want to be in my Hobbit house.
More and more every day, my Alan Moore character turns into Mr. Frog from Smiling Friends. Hello. Anyway, Alan Moore has mentioned, I think before, that like he was trying to deconstruct the superhero genre, which makes a lot of sense. Watchmen, Miracle Man, they were very deconstructive titles. But the thing is, when you've deconstructed a genre, someone is supposed to reconstruct it into something more interesting. Unfortunately, Alan Moore's deconstructive interpretations of the superhero genre caught so much traction and became so popular that people just started imitating what he did without understanding why he did it.
Yeah.
And it took a really long time. I'm going to say it took until 2003 when Robert Kirkman and Cory Walker started Invincible together that the real superhero reconstruction came along. I really think that Invincible is and this isn't just me being like a huge Invincible fan. This is me like kind of looking at the history of superhero comics and recognizing the trends. I think that Invincible is the answer to the Watchmen. Like it's that reconstructive superhero story that was supposed to come sooner, but it just took like 20 years.
Yeah. Because it's like what you said. Like Alan Moore had a purpose for that story in deconstructing superheroes, but as well as like just there's so much more to Watchmen
Yeah.
than just deconstructing superheroes. There's a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of layers to it.
There's a lot of like political examination and things like that as well.
Yeah, there's so many things you can look at Watchmen, which is why like it's a great reread. I honestly, anytime you reread it, you likely pick up something new. The issue is like what you said, the people that came after Alan Moore, they looked at Watchmen as like inspiration, but the inspiration was superheroes dark superheroes, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted to take away from Watchmen. To where you then have a lot of your 90s stuff just kind of tag on to that of like, Rorschach was cool.
Yeah.
let's do cool dark characters.
Yeah.
They're not like your dad's superheroes. They're not like your grandpa's superheroes.
Yeah.
They have darkness to them, and they're gonna kill. And they might be a little bad.
That makes me think of a comic strip that I saw recently of Alan Moore being like, I created a character that's the complete opposite of me, and he's horrible and he's evil and he's it's like he's holding up a picture of Rorschach, and then the fan takes the picture and they're like, this guy's really cool, and Alan Moore's like, what? I was like, yeah, I love this guy, and Alan Moore just looks mad. And like disappointed, and it's it's like everybody looked at Rorschach and they're like, Rorschach's so cool. I mean, when I was a teenager, like Rorschach was the coolest thing in the world, and I still really like him as a character.
I was gonna say
he's an interesting character, not because he's
I was gonna say he's a very interesting character. Like he's very complex because you see like one already, he's not a great guy, but you see him like the breakdown of him. Because you see the early stages of the Watchmen forming, and you see he's not that bad of a guy, but he's slowly through like just his upbringing and his abuse that he had taken, as well as like subjected to the horrors of superheroism. You see him just what he is now, which is a horrible person.
Yeah, and the way that his politics and philosophy influence his approach.
Exactly.
Because he is very much meant to be a critique of that Randian objectivism that inspired characters like Mr. E and The Question in the first place.
Yeah.
Or is it Mr. A? Not Mr. E.
Mr. A, yeah.
Mr. A. Sorry, Mr. E is just such a deep-seated pun in my mind. Oh yeah, Mr. A and The Question. Like all those classic Ditko characters.
Yeah.
And it's like Rorschach is a critique of that. Like you're supposed to see Rorschach reading Atlas Shrugged on the bus and be like, ugh. But yeah, and like, the misogyny and homophobia kind of rooted into the character as well is an interesting angle, because he exhibits those traits as well.
Yeah, man, that's. I'm not saying it's like as good as Watchmen, but I do think it's really good. It just makes me think of Rorschach, the Tom King book, because, like I mentioned before, kind of a somewhat big thing is like pirate comics / pirate media is a big thing in this universe. Yeah. It's their superheroes essentially, and you have a character.
One Piece really took off.
I forgot the character's name. He's basically a Steve Ditko stand-in, though. Okay. There's a comic creator in the book, and he's somewhat one of the main characters. And I can't remember if it's like investigating his death or what. But he helped create these pirate comics essentially, and then they took off. They boomed, sort of thing. But he has very much the Steve Ditko outlook on life and stuff. And then at one point in the comic, I don't remember if they actually call him by this name, but you have Frank Miller show up in the comic, and it looks exactly like Frank Miller. And Tom King has even said in an interview, like he went to Frank to like ask, like, "Hey, can I get your permission to put you in the comic?" Basically,
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
to use his likeness.
yeah. He maybe his name is Frank Miller in the comic. I can't remember, but you look at the characters like this looks exactly like Frank Miller.
Yeah,
And it deals with like in some of the side story of the Rorschach investigation stuff. It deals with these pirate comic creators, and it's oddly fascinating. It's very meta in some instances, like with Frank Miller just showing up in the book.
yeah.
And it's one of those things where you might enjoy it if you don't know superhero comics, but if you know superhero comics, you're like, holy crap! Like a lot of this stuff is just stuff that happened in real life, but we're arranging it for this fictional story. It's very interesting. But sorry. Every time I think of like the the comic creating aspect or comic books within Watchmen,
Yeah.
like the kid sitting at the newspaper stand reading comics and those meta conversations they have, it directly makes me think of Rorschach and all that side stuff.
Yeah. We get it, Brandon. You want Tom King to be your daddy.
Tom King, please. I'm sure you still have influence in the CIA. Make it happen.
I didn't mean that kind of daddy, Brandon.
I want Tom King to be my papa.
I meant daddy with a capital D.
Well,
if you know what I mean, a big D daddy.
All right, I'm gonna have to say no. It's bad I had to think on it.
It's tempting, but
sorry, Tom King. I'm gonna have to say no to your offer.
the offer that he definitely made.
Yes, he made it.
He encoded it into Rorschach.
Yeah.
He's like, this is the only way to get to Brandon. It's the only way he'll understand. Then maybe someday I'll hear back from him in some format, maybe a podcast.
Yes. Man, this sounds like I'm going down this joke road, but I am now thinking I need to get back into reading some Tom King stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't read the man's like the past like 2 years worth of comics. I haven't read any of them. I need to do that.
Brandon, he's gonna be disappointed.
He's gonna be ashamed. He's gonna lock me away and be like, here's Danger Street, here's Gotham Year One, here's my current run on Wonder Woman, here's all the other stuff that I have going on that Brandon can't think of. Here's all of it. Stay in the basement, read it all. You don't get food until you read it all.
He's doing Wonder Woman?
Yeah, he's been doing Wonder Woman. People love it. Most people. I think it's been slightly divisive, but
that's cool.
Well,
I mean, Tom King is always a little divisive, but like
yeah.
I still am waiting to like I it's gonna be a long time till I get to it. But once I read his Batman run, I might finally see why people seem to hate that one so much.
Yeah, I want to read it all the way through just so I can have a true opinion on it. I've read at least a quarter of it, like dipping in and out. And I like bits of it. There are bits that I don't like, but
there are some scenes that I've seen like bits of here and there that I'm really looking forward to finally getting to, like a Bane and Batman no masks scene.
Yeah.
And
that.
However, there are things I know about ahead of time too that I know are going to frustrate me because they frustrated me when I heard about them, which is stuff like Catwoman leaving Batman at the altar.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh yeah.
I see. To me, Alfred's death isn't something that would frustrate me. It's sad. He's one of my all-time favorite DC characters.
Right.
But like, I have to read that one for myself to see whether or not it's well done. Like, I have to form my own opinion on that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. yeah, the Catwoman thing, I
That
don't
just made me
blame.
that made me
Yeah,
mad when I heard about it.
I disliked it as well as like the news about it, because I don't blame Tom King on that. I blame DC and the marketing on that,
Yeah,
because
that's straight up editorial messing with
yeah,
it. I think like
because if
they should have been married by now. Damn it.
well, not only that, like here's the thing, I'm okay with like they wind up not getting married at the end of that issue, because maybe that was Tom King's story. My issue is like how much DC promoted the wedding. Like they literally sent out to comic shops wedding invitations. Like they
Yeah,
sent out wedding invitations. They did interviews. They did all this stuff to where it's like, oh, like the wedding. Like this is going to be like the next big wedding. This is going to be like Peter Parker and Mary Jane getting married, essentially.
yeah,
Like this is the next big comic book wedding, and then it doesn't happen, which I am okay with it not happening. The issue is how much they hyped it up.
yeah, yeah. They hyped it up like it was like Reed Richards and Sue Storm getting married,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Cyclops and Jean Grey, or like you said, Spider-Man and Mary Jane. And I think wasn't Superman and Lois a big deal when they got married?
Yeah, I think that was a big deal. Yeah, but
Yeah, like anytime the really big name ones actually get married, that's always a huge deal. And Batman and Catwoman have been a thing for so long. You see, for me, I'm not okay with them not ending up together, because Batman, like, we are so far past the I work alone, I'm sad Batman stuff that like we at least we should be, right? You can't
yeah.
be sad forever. The dude's got 4 kids.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's why, now thinking about it, I'm 50-50 on it. Here's why I'm partially okay with it not happening is I haven't read all of Tom King's run, and I haven't read all his stuff leading up to that. So maybe like it plays well into the story he is crafting. If that's the case, I'm okay with it. But then I also remember, this is kind of Tom King's fault. Batman asked Catwoman to marry him on like issue 20
Yeah.
or something. The wedding that was supposed to happen happens on issue 50.
That's like 2
30
years.
Yeah, 30 issues you've been like ramping to this. You've been building to this.
Wasn't Batman shipping
It was
twice
a 2
monthly?
week.
It was okay, yeah. All right, so about
Over a year.
Yeah, over a year of build up.
Like essentially an average person's real life engagement.
Yeah.
Like over a year. Like you so I will blame Tom King on that one a little bit, because you built and built and built, and then
the war of jokes and riddles happened.
Here's the thing. I know there are a lot of people that don't like the war of jokes and riddles. I personally like the war of jokes and riddles.
Again,
there are parts I don't like.
Yeah, again, I haven't read it, so I don't have an opinion on it yet. I'm just saying that, like, I know that that's in between, like, Batman's proposal and I think Catwoman's answer, right?
Yes, yeah, because what it is Batwoman asks, like, will you marry me? And
you mean
then
Batman asks, will you marry me?
What did I say?
You said Batwoman.
Oh, sorry.
Batwoman proposed to her girlfriend a few years earlier, and he killed her off.
That was my fan fiction.
Because if the straight Batman can't get married, then the gay Batwoman absolutely can't get married.
That was what I wanted to happen.
But Batwoman is so far in the can't get married category, they had to kill her fiance.
Yeah. So yeah, like Batman asks, will you marry me, or something? I can't remember. He asked something like that. And then before Selena answers,
so you want to get hitched?
Before Selena answers, like Batman's like, I do have to tell you something though. Something that's I don't remember exactly what he says, but he's like something that's haunted me, sort of.
It'll take roughly 6 20-page issues to convey this information to you.
Actually, it's going to take me a little over 7.
Oh, geez, it was that long?
it was 25, issued 25 to 32, if I remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember because I remember trying to buy them all because I honestly did like it when it was going on at the time. But yeah, so essentially he spends in our universe, he spends a little over 3 months telling her this story. 3 months are up, and at the end of it, she does say yes. She's also like, "Oh my gosh, we've been laying in bed for 3 months. Gotham has gone to hell."
Could you imagine?
But no, like
Last
you
time I was in bed this long, it's because Bane threw my back out. That came
Yeah.
out wrong.
Yeah, you've heard like what was the thing that happens at the end of War of Jokes and Riddles that haunts him, right?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Well, actually, I'm gonna be honest, dude. It's a few years old, and when it comes to comic books, I tend to not be super touchy about spoilers. So if you want to tell me, go ahead.
Okay. Well, essentially, it's a final showdown. Like the whole thing is this war between Joker and Riddler over Gotham, basically. And
Yeah.
Batman's like caught in the middle, just he's just going everywhere, just trying to like keep the peace and like minimize this war that is kind of out of his hand, out of his control, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like Gotham's first supervillain gang war, basically, right?
Yeah.
Something
and
he's definitely not equipped for at that time.
It is very interesting, and there are cool moments. Like there's one moment that I like a lot. There are some flaws with it, but there's like a I can't remember how long. It's like a 3 or a 7-day sniper shootout between Deadshot and Deathstroke.
Yeah, you've talked about this before.
It's so interesting. It's also, there are some parts of it that are kind of dumb, but I like it overall. But pretty much at the end, you have the final showdown. You have Batman, Joker, and Riddler in a high rise, like fighting and talking with each other and stuff.
You can do it no other way.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be epic, because this was actually how you got Kite Man, because Kite Man is like a side character you see throughout the whole story.
Yeah,
his story is very tragic. Yeah. I mean, this is where Kite Man Hell Yeah came from.
Yeah, I know.
It's awesome.
I have the first volume of King's Batman run on my shelf, so I like I always loved Kite Man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I love that Harley Quinn took that. I like that.
Yeah, leaned into it. I will say the way he does it in the show is a little weird to me, where he's like, Kite Man, hell yeah. Like he leans into the hell yeah so much. For me, whenever I read it in the comic, I always thought of it as, because he's moving fast, right?
Yeah.
I always thought of it as Kite Man, hell yeah, and then jumps off a building.
Yeah.
Just real quick.
Yeah, it's not entirely like a I mean, it partially is, but it's not entirely like a catchphrase.
Yeah, it's just something he says.
Yeah, it's something he says, whereas the show, it feels like a catchphrase.
Yeah.
But basically how, because they're on like the, I don't know, 50th floor of this high rise or 100th floor or whatever. And I think at this point, Batman is sided with Riddler to kind of just try
Batman picked a side.
He kind of had to. He's trying to stop both of them, but he kind of had to assist on one side over the other. But basically, Kite Man is kind of the person that gets them into this final showdown. Like Kite Man makes the hang glider kites or whatever that gets them to crash through this high rise. I forgot exactly what happened, but Kite Man is involved in making this happen. So yeah, there's the showdown. It's Batman, Joker, Riddler. What exactly happened? I'm trying to remember. Riddler. What was it? Oh, okay. So Joker's like, they're fighting or whatever, and I think Joker gets like pushed off to the side, gets injured. I can't remember. And then, I remember what. Okay, Joker's pushed off to the side. Then something is revealed about Riddler, Riddler says something that is like very bad. Like he killed someone close to Batman or someone Batman knew, or it's something really bad. I can't remember.
I was gonna say, when you say something was revealed about Riddler before you said it was bad, I was gonna be like, this is the issue when Riddler came out, and Batman's gonna be like, good for you. I'm proud of you. You're so brave.
No,
I mean,
Batman
this is probably
actually,
the worst time you could have done it. You should have done this in like a happier, more secure sort of setting. We're in the middle of a fight right now, but either way, good for you.
well,
buddy.
no, Batman actually hated that. Batman's a homophobe because he grabs a knife and he charges at Riddler, going to stab Riddler.
So what was the actual reveal? Was it that like
I
Riddler killed
I
someone?
can't remember what it is. He did something like very bad that like it struck Batman to where like he's acting on impulse. Batman is acting on impulse. It was such a bad thing.
I was actually Joe Chill, Batman.
I can't remember what it was.
Literally the only thing I can think of that would motivate Batman to try to kill
I
someone.
don't remember. It kind of made sense with this because at this point, when Batman's telling the story, I think, and that's also another thing I'll circle back to in terms of an issue with this is the timeline of this doesn't entirely work for me. But
I was gonna say, isn't
I'm-
it supposed to be sometime between 0 Year and Court of Owls?
I think it's like the first or second year where whenever I first read it, in terms of like my editorial correction, I was like, why didn't you do like at least 5 years into his career? Why can't that have been a thing or something? I don't know. But it was very early on. But that also explains why he's like so impulsive right here. He's still somewhat fresh to this. He grabs a knife because of whatever Riddler said, and he goes to charge to stab Riddler. Like he's going to go kill Riddler. And you see him go to stab, and it punctures something. And then we stretch out from the shot. Joker stepped in and put his hand in the way to block the stab. And also, I should also mention, throughout this whole story, Joker has had like no smile. He's had like a not a frown, but almost just like nothing's funny anymore.
Okay.
Like nothing
Oh.
is great or happy to me anymore. And then when this happens, when
I was
Joker
gonna say, this
steps
is
in,
probably the most hilarious thing in the world.
once that happens, Joker just starts smiling. And he's like dying laughing.
Yeah.
Because he realizes, Joker, this psychotic person, Batman's number one enemy, I'm the reason he didn't kill Riddler.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for me, he would have broke his code. And so that's what like makes Joker's life, or makes his day, essentially, is just like, this is great. And then
I was
Batman
gonna say, like, literally everything about that situation is exactly what the Joker would find funny.
Yeah. And so Riddler doesn't die because Joker stepped in and it went through Joker's hand. And yeah, Batman impulse is kind of like kicked off. He's like, oh my God, like what did I do? And Joker's just still laughing and stuff. So that's the big, like, I have to tell you this thing that's going to take me 3 months to tell you.
Yeah.
The Catwoman is like, I almost killed someone. Like I legit had impulse. I was going to do it. Like it was in my heart. Riddler was going to die. So yeah.
And of all people, the Joker saved him.
And of all people, the Joker saved him. And now the Joker smiles and laughs forever because he realizes this is such a great, funny thing to him.
And was Catwoman's reaction anything along the lines of, all right?
I don't remember what her reaction was. I think it was just like, that's hot. Let's bang. And yes, I'll marry you.
She's like, I've almost killed like 1 million guys.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't even remotely close to a big deal to me.
Yeah, she's like, boo-hoo.
Yeah. Now let's have
get
hot
it on.
rooftop sex. Masks on as usual. Don't you dare take that cowl off.
But yeah, like
I don't care that you think my hair is pretty. I'm leaving my mask on.
Overall, I personally like the War of Jokes and Riddles. My only big critique, which I'm continuity does matter, but overall I'm so on it sometimes. The big critique I have is like I'm not a big fan of like when this takes place. It seems like too soon, too early sort of thing.
I have to ask, as someone who has made himself intimately familiar with the like 5-year lead up to technically when the New 52 timeline starts.
Yeah.
Because I've read a ton of the Zero issues and a lot of the stuff that takes place beforehand at this point. I've read 0 Year multiple times at this point as well. Which, if any, Robin is present?
That's a good question. If there's a Robin present, I don't remember them at all.
That's an issue. That's a problem.
Now it's been a few years since I've read it, but yeah, that is a thing. I'm assuming Robin is in it and does play a character. But the people I remember most on the good or somewhat good guy side is Batman, Jim Gordon, and Kite Man.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like it's a little bit of a problem if Robin is, if he is present at all, that he's downplayed to such an extent. Because, I mean, that probably helps to avoid some continuity errors. Because the thing is, Rebirth is still going off of the New 52 timeline. And the thing is, the New 52's commitment to everything happened in a 5-year squish. And anything that didn't fit is anywhere between thousands and hundreds of years in the past, or it got segmented off into a different reality with stuff like Earth 2. Where am I going with this? Right, like with it all happening in a 5-year squish, they had to do a lot of timeline gymnastics to justify the 3 Robins that preceded Damian. For example, like Dick and Jason obviously both had to be teenagers before they ever became Robin. Like, they weren't really boys wonder at any point. They were both teen wonders. And Tim was also, I believe, a teenager when he became Robin. Yeah, Tim was definitely a teenager. And the thing is, like, Tim had to be the Robin with like the shortest tenure. Because he very quickly had to become like Red Robin in time for the Teen Titans series. So it's and thankfully I did read the Secret Origins story for Tim. So I have enough information to know that like the reason that he didn't stick around with Batman very long is because after he served a brief stint as Robin, he began to feel unchallenged by it and needed something new. So he left, became Red Robin, and founded the Teen Titans.
Okay.
And that also, was basically the idea.
I'm trying to remember. I know pre-New 52, Damian was introduced, but in terms of New 52, does he get introduced in the New 52, or is he already there? Like he's Robin?
Technically already there and Robin, because I believe he does appear in the first, within the first 6 issues of Court of Owls. At some point, and also he is the Robin present for the Batman and Robin series that starts in the New 52.
Okay.
So Damian's already there. He does have a Secret Origins segment that I think tries to clean up any continuity errors, but I stopped reading before I got to that point for Secret Origins because I deemed it unnecessary.
But yeah, it's like what you said. There's that time squish, and within that time squish, you have 4 Robins.
Yeah.
Of 5 years.
Yeah. So, well, technically within 6 years, if you count 0 Year as Batman's technical first year within the New 52.
Wait, is 0 Year, isn't that counted as a part of the 5 years?
No, 0 Year is set 6 years before the New 52 technically begins. And then like the first story arc for Justice League is like the following year.
Okay, wait, so the New 52 Batman stuff, is that 6 years into Batman's career, or essentially the DC stuff going on?
Yeah, like New 52 Batman, starting with like Batman #1 by Scott Snyder.
Yeah.
Is effectively 6 years into Batman's career.
Okay.
But 5 years into like everybody else becoming superheroes.
Yeah, all the other stuff in between. Okay.
Yeah. And then like Grant Morrison's entire run on Action Comics is squeezed into that 5-year stretch as well.
Okay. Man, all because Dr. Manhattan just came to this universe and just wanted to see what would happen if he moved Alan Scott's lantern.
I know, right? He moved it like what, 5 inches, 6 inches?
He moved it 5 or 6 inches, and all of this happened because of that.
Yeah. It's like, whoa, moving one lantern created a new multiverse. Complete with its own dark multiverse.
And it's all because Dr. Manhattan just wanted to see what would happen. He's just curious.
It's like, I'm just a little guy. I just wanted to see. Can you blame me? It was interesting, wasn't it? Not all of it was good, but at least it was interesting.
I was a man of science. I was a doctor.
Yeah.
A lot of times we just have a hypothesis and we just want to see what would happen. My hypothesis was
shit gets cray.
Yeah.
I was a man of science, and now I'm a little guy of science. All right.
Yes.
I am blue, dabba dee dabba die, and I wanted to see what would happen. You can't be mad at me. Look at me. I'm a baby. I'm bald like a baby. I wear a little blue diaper like a baby. I'm just a little guy. Can you imagine if that was like Dr. Manhattan's excuse?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm a baby. Like, I'm a child.
Look, I mostly fixed everything by the end. It's like, but yeah, some of us went through like 5 to 10 years of suffering because of what you did. Look at Wally. Look what you did to Wally.
You completely, and irreparably screwed up Wally.
Like, his life was gone. He was gone. He was trying to get back.
He literally didn't exist.
Yeah.
And you replaced him with his own cousin / alternate version of himself?
Yeah.
Through an uncle that I don't think he had in the old timeline?
Well, I just wanted to see what would happen. Again, man of science.
A little guy of science.
And then I was curious. Hey, I've been mucking around so much. Like, what if Superman's Kryptonian dad, what if he didn't die? He's here. We'll have some stuff with him. We'll call him Mr. Oz.
For some reason.
I don't remember why he's called Mr. Oz. But
I think it had something to do with ounces, didn't it? I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
No, wait. It had something to do with Ozymandias, didn't it? Why he was called Mr. Oz?
Maybe. I don't know.
I remember. I don't remember much. I remember one of the conventions we went to. I just sat and read the Wikipedia article out loud, and we both laughed our lungs out.
Yeah, because I remember before you started reading, I was like, okay, it's going to get so insanely stupid and complicated when you go down all of the Watchmen tying into the DC universe stuff and how much it has affected it.
I remember feeling physically stressed out reading that article to you at that convention. Like, it was so much.
It's crazy. I remember reading it though, because that was Rebirth time whenever they were actually revealing all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like Dr. Manhattan's mucking about, and it's like, oh, like, are we going to see him soon? Hey, a couple years have passed. Here's the button Here's the Watchmen button.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I was gonna say we're gonna see Dr. Manhattan soon. Well, soon is relative.
Oh, Mr. Oz. We heard of Mr. Oz like back in like 2015 or so. We want to see him. Yes. But it's going to be in an Action Comics storyline. But you've talked about him as like a big character. This isn't like an event for the universe. Like, no. It's 5 issues. It's called the Oz Effect. It'll begin and it'll resolve by the end of that 5 issues. Oh, okay.
And no, we're not going to number the collected volume we put it in.
No.
It takes place between numbered volumes of Action Comics.
Yes. Yeah. It's if I remember right, me as the DC writer, it's like issue 968 to 973 of Action Comics. And it's like volume 5 or 6 of Action Comics, specifically the Rebirth title.
Yeah.
So yeah, this what is kind of a big event, big deal. It's thrown in just one of the series.
God forbid anybody wanted to start reading about Superman at this point.
Oh gosh. Yeah, thinking about the Superman, it was good. The Superman Rebirth stuff was good. But because I think Peter J. Tomasi wrote most of the Rebirth Superman stuff, and it is good. But editorial, because they were trying to lead to Doomsday Clock, and then once you get to Doomsday Clock, it kind of makes more sense. They were kind of pushing like, hey, Superman is going to be a big deal when we finally have this Watchmen meets DC Universe thing. He's going to be the linchpin of it all. So we need you to do some heavy work in your family Superman book. It's supposed to just be a family Superman book. But what we're going to have you do in between some of these nice moments, we need you to do a thing about issue 14 or 15 called Multiplicity, which explains all of these versions of Superman. And by the end of it, we need New 52 Superman and our current Superman to fuse.
Yeah,
They
that's
need
right.
to
I
do
remember that because like they basically wanted to be able to make all of the New 52 stuff count for post-crisis Superman.
Yes.
And so they had to like fuse them together, which is just, I get it. I understand. You don't want 5 years worth of publishing history to just be completely gone on a version of Superman that the fans didn't care for. But also,
yeah, to me, it's like, who cares? It's 5 years. It's okay. The writer got their money. I doubt they're that butthurt that you're going to take him out. It's okay. But no, we got to do. They got to do the fusion dance. They got to do the Dragon Ball fusion dance.
yeah,
They connect fingers. They do the little dance, connect fingers. Now they're together. Now they're Superman.
I was gonna say now that with their fusion name, they are Superman.
Yeah. But so yeah, we have that, and then we have some more good family stuff, and then we got to have the Oz effect happen. Superman's dad. Spoiler, he's back. He never died on Krypton. Dr. Manhattan pulled him. I forget kind of the reason, but once you read Doomsday Clock, it's like, oh, I think he was just seeing what would happen. I think all of this is just Dr. Manhattan just curious as what would happen. And so, yeah, John Kent is alive. And then this isn't my fault. Peter
Wait,
J.
John
Tomasi.
Kent was also alive?
Or sorry, not John Kent.
Jor-El?
Jor-El, thank you.
I was gonna say that's both of his dads.
Yeah, no. It's like, okay, he's alive. And then me Peter J. Tomasi, this isn't my fault. A year from now, whoever's writing Action Comics, as well as me, I'm writing Superman. We're going to be done on our Rebirth story. Then they have the amazing talent, Brian Michael Bendis. He's coming on. Bendis is coming. He's coming. It's all over.
And
you
you'll
see
never
it all over
wash
the
it out.
pages. You'll never be able to wash it out. It's a double-page ad that we have that says Bendis is coming.
Bendis is coming, and you can smell it from here.
And he's got ideas for Superman. And one of those ideas is very, very early on, within the first 5 to 10 issues of his book.
Drop the R
He
word.
He liked the idea of Jor-El being back. And so he said, hey, I don't really care about any of this family bullcrap that Peter J. Tomasi's doing. This guy, this kid, what's his name? Jonathan Kent. We need to get him out of my book. I want to have Superman flirting with fire ladies and other reporters and stuff. I need the family to go away.
Ugh.
So, Jor-El, you go take Jonathan Kent, you go take him to some place and you train him so that I can write the stuff I want to write, where Jonathan Kent is now in high school. He's now like 16 or something, or 17. That's what I want to write. I know, yes, DC, yes, you shouldn't be talking to me like that. I'm Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah.
You brought me here. You said I was coming.
I
coming,
saved
damn it.
Marvel. You don't talk to me this way.
You don't talk to me. I'm coming, damn it. All right. So
Here, there, everywhere.
Everywhere.
You'll never wash it out.
And so, yes, my idea, we've had little boy Superman's son, who's like 9-10 years old. I don't care about that. We've had that for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Forget that. 17 years old. All of those storylines and potentials of storylines, no. I don't want that. I want Superman, I want his big bad to be Rogol Zar. Wait, you're telling me no one knows who the hell Rogol Zar is in 2024? Why, he was Superman's big bad. How do you not remember? I introduced him in Action Comics 1000. He was the one, I think, I don't remember me, Brian Michael Bendis. I think he's the one that caused Krypton to explode. He's the big bad for Superman.
Yeah. He was going to be my Gore the God Butcher.
Oh, and then within a year of him being introduced, everyone hates him. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. That to me, that just sounds like a God Butcher gone wrong sort of situation. Because like introducing new villains as the big bad in modern comic books, right?
Yeah.
That you have to do it absolutely perfectly. And like,
oh yeah.
And the reason that I use the God Butcher as an example is because Jason Aaron did it absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
Like God Butcher rolled up, took a dump on Thor's lawn, and said, "What are you going to do about it?" And like it was, and it like he was immediately impactful. His story was like very resonant, and like he's a villain you understood but still wanted to see stopped.
Yeah.
Which that's a fine line to walk, because a lot of writers don't know how to make an understandable villain without making them too empathetic.
Yeah.
So like with Gore, like Jason Aaron like walked the tightrope of understandable but still the bad guy.
Yeah.
And so like the God Butcher is a perfect example of how to introduce a new villain post 2010 in a Marvel or DC comic. And from the way that you're describing this whole Bendis with Rogol Zaar thing, it sounds like he didn't quite do it right.
No. And one thing I'll mention is not only storyline, but also what the character looks like. Gore the God Butcher has a great appearance.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I love the way Gore the God Butcher looks in the comics. Like, it's a great appearance.
And Asad Rivic's artwork, as well as I don't know who does the coloring. Does Rivic do the coloring for that run, or
I don't know, but yeah, whoever does the coloring, like, oh my gosh, they complement it so well.
Yes, because it's like so ethereal and painterly.
Yeah.
Like the artwork for that entire God Butcher run is just, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's just a fantastic run of comics. And yeah, and like you said, like Gore was given such a striking and unique design compared to a lot of other villains, because like they didn't shy away from the fact that he's an alien.
Yeah.
And like it's such a simple design too. It's just black and white. He's just black and white.
Yeah. But you see him and he stands out and he's like intimidating. He doesn't feel like the villain of the week or anything like that. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's like gonna be here for a little bit.
Yeah, this is like, again, like he was Thor's next nemesis. He's the single most impactful new villain, I think, in Marvel Comics since, like, for the last 15 years, probably.
Yeah. Because yeah, it's one of those things where story is critical in this, but also that appearance has to work as well.
Yeah.
I recommend. Do you have your laptop near you?
Oh no, I shut it down earlier.
Oh, okay, never mind. Well, I recommend, listener, look up Gore the God Butcher, and then have that as a separate tab. Then
and make sure you look
Zaar.
up. Make sure you look up the comic book version of Gore the God Butcher.
Yeah.
Because the movie version just looks like Christian Bale painted white.
Yeah. Look up the comic version and then put that in a separate tab. Then look up Rogol Zaar. I'll help you spell it as well, because that's also an issue. It's Rogol, and then Zaar is Zaar. Look at both of their designs and tell me which one looks most like a villain of the week. Because that's what Rogol Zaar looks like. His design is too overcomplicated. There's too much going on with him, I think. And he also doesn't look like the big bad.
He looks like a previous Herald of Galactus.
He looks like
I just looked him up, and he's
okay.
on my phone, and he looks like Terax from Marvel. Like he looks like a Herald of Galactus.
Yeah. Also, if there's any images of him like holding an axe, also look at those. He had an axe a lot of time. But yeah, the big issue is just like he doesn't look like a big bad to me.
No,
he looks like
not.
either villain of the week or like big henchman of villain. Like I'm not saying it's this, but it's essentially like with Justice League. He's like Steppenwolf, or a downgrade below Steppenwolf for Darkseid. Darkseid's the big bad, and he's like the second or third henchman in command, sort of thing.
Yeah. Rogol Zaar does not look like the next big bad guy. Like you said, Gore, he looks like the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's got that Voldemort energy going on with his design.
Yeah.
Like he just looks like this guy is the villain.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Rogol Zaar, he looks like he looks like he works for Gore.
Yeah.
He looks like he works for the God Butcher.
Yeah, think of an alien villain in DC, if you're keeping it in DC, and he is like the right-hand man or like a general for that villain.
He looks like he's on Kanjar Rowe's payroll if we're sticking to DC.
Kanjar Rose, I'm trying to think who you're talking about here.
Is that one a deep cut? Kanjar Rowe is one of my favorite space DC villains.
Maybe I'm blanking. Let me see.
I watched a lot of Batman the Brave and the Bold when I was a kid, and the Batman and Blue Beetle episode where he was the villain was always one of the ones that was on the most.
Okay, I've seen him some. Yeah. He looks familiar. I think I saw him through the cartoon. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a little bit of a deep cut.
Okay, I didn't realize Kanjar Rowe was that obscure.
That is funny that you mentioned like an obscure, somewhat big bad, and it's like, yeah, Rogozar is the henchman of this obscure big bad.
Yeah, I love Batman the Brave and the Bold though for like going for the deeper cuts, and like even Batman's team ups at the time were less popular characters. Like Blue Beetle, like Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. He wasn't super well known at the time. And Plastic Man, and even Aquaman and the Atom at the time weren't like big name DC characters. So like I love that Brave and the Bold always went for like deep cuts. And then like the villains were always characters like Gentleman Ghost, and Kanjar Rowe. Like guys like that you don't see in like the Justice League cartoons.
Yeah, looking at this, like Rogozar, to me, looks like one of the gladiator type aliens that Mongol has on Warworld. And Mongol just sends Rogozar to cause havoc, and then Mongol will show up later. Yeah.
And like the dude seems like a big deal, but then Superman lays him out in one punch.
Yeah. That's exactly it. He's so like overcomplicated to where like it's trying hard to give off this big bad energy when really it's one punch and the guy's out. That's exactly, I would agree. But yeah, everyone go check out all of Brian Michael Bendis' Superman work.
Yes. He came.
He did came. He camed.
And you'll never wash it out.
No. Yeah, I'm going to sometime later today, I might dig through my long box, try to find some of those 2017 DC Rebirth comics and find that double page splash of Superman and it saying Bendis is coming. And I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to post it on my social media stories and be like, he came. He camed.
And you'll never wash it out. Like, I absolutely cannot believe they looked at that and thought, yeah, this is a marketing campaign.
Yeah. we talked about it before, but yeah, there were some bad decisions in terms of some of these marketing campaigns or these ads. Like we've talked about before, I think it was like a Venom ad or something where it's like drippy, and I forgot what it said, but it looked, the font looked like it looked like what you think it looked like what Brian Bendis was doing.
Yeah. It's like in anime, whenever there's like a lot of excessive blood in anime, the censored versions will make the blood white. That doesn't improve it. That doesn't make it family friendly. That makes it worse.
Yeah.
I don't want to see white fluids being poured all into Denji's mouth when I'm watching Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, why? They're enjoying this fight too much.
I'm okay with the white fluids pouring into Power's mouth. But not Denji's. That one's weird for me.
Yeah. But yeah. And now, I don't know where Brian Michael Bendis went after that. He's somewhere. He's floating around.
He seemed to disappear. I wonder if he's doing any indie stuff right now.
He might be. I remember with the Rebirth stuff, the big announcement was him doing Superman. He did that. On the side, he did a Walmart book similar to Tom King.
Yeah.
But a lot of people liked Bendis's Walmart book because it was a Batman series.
Yeah, and he's always been more suited to street level characters.
Yeah. And most people that have read both, I haven't read his Batman series yet, but I will eventually. Most people that have read both his Superman and his Batman stuff are like, this Batman stuff is pretty good. Why didn't they just do him as Batman?
Yeah.
Which clearly made it seem like Bendis wanted to do Superman when he came over to DC.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was probably like what they probably did was when DC offered him a job, was they probably knew that his contract with Marvel was coming up, and he had been with Marvel for like 20 years by that point anyway.
Yeah.
But they probably knew that his contract with Marvel was coming to a close pretty soon, and they wanted to get him on board. So they probably told Bendis, like, we want you to sign an exclusivity contract, and we will let you pick your title if you sign with us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's what happened. Because it's like, it's basically like, we will let you do whatever you want, at least for the first couple years, because we're thinking this is a good campaign. Action Comics starts going within 2 years. It's like, oh crap, what have we done? Fans hate this. But like that first 2 years, he had the Superman thing. He had the Walmart Batman book, but then he made multiple new titles and maybe new characters as well with like their own books, their own starting books.
I think he did. Yes. Didn't he make a few like new teenage characters? Because that's another thing that he's always been well known for, is his teenage characters.
I think one, I could be wrong, I think her name was Naomi.
Yes, Naomi is, and she even got a show on the CW.
Yeah. And that's what was crazy, is like, it was like, I think only a few issues had been out. Maybe one trade had been out whenever the show happened. Then it got at least 1 or 2 seasons on CW.
That's got to be like the quickest comic to screen turnover from either company.
Oh yeah. Because in terms of TV, for sure.
That had to be a situation where like TV development was a part of the pitch for the character when Bendis was working on her.
It had to be. It had to be a part of the deal. Because thinking about like title series, yes, that had to be the quickest turnaround. In terms of character just appearing, I might give it to Godspeed from The Flash. Yeah. He showed up pretty quick into the show.
He did, and they recreated his costume like perfectly down to the last detail.
Yeah.
Now I had stopped watching the show by that point, but I
had stopped watching. I had saw all the images and stuff, and I was like, man, this almost wants me to like dip back into the show because I like this villain so much in Joshua Williamson's The Flash. And I was like, I'm good. I'm not going to dip into the show.
Yeah. But no, Godspeed's a great villain.
Yeah. I like him a lot.
It's weird how the Flash, of all characters, gets away with, like, he has a rogues gallery on par with Batman and Spider-Man. And yet, all of his most significant villains are mirrors.
Yeah.
Like, Spider-Man's got a couple mirrors with the symbiotes, and the occasional clone that turns bad. And you could argue that most of Batman's villains are mirrors when you consider the fact that most of them are just unpowered humans.
Right. Because let's see.
The Flash, I think, is like the only major superhero with a huge rogues gallery that a lot of people know pretty intimately at this point, especially because of the show. But like all of the big ones are just these speedsters with literally the same exact power set as him that just keep coming back. But the Flash gets away with it for some reason. Gets away with doing that.
Yeah. Because you have Reverse Flash, you have Zoom, You have
Professor Zoom, because in the new
Saboteur or Savitar or
Savitar,
something.
yeah. But yeah, like in the new 52, Reverse Flash, like Reverse Flash used to be a term that just encompassed all of like the Mirror Flash nemesis, right?
Yeah.
So like it started with like the Rival, then it was Professor Zoom, then it was Zoom, then it was Inertia. Now, as of the new 52, young Wally's uncle, not uncle, dad.
Yeah.
Young Wally's dad is Reverse Flash. Like just full stop, that's his name. So that like that so now Reverse Flash isn't just like a blanket title for all the Reverse Flashes anymore. Now it is a specific guy in the comics. And I think for the sake of simplicity, they just used it for Professor Zoom in the show. But yeah, and then and like you said, Savitar, and then Godspeed. There are others.
The Black Racer.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably at least a couple more.
But yeah, it's crazy how the Flash just kind of keeps getting away with like all of my most significant villains have the same powers as me.
Yeah. And they play it better in the comic, but I remember with the Flash show, right when I was dipping out, the issue with the show is, one, the main bad each season is just another Mirror Flash. It's another speedster, and Barry Allen can't stop them throughout most of the season. But and he also can't go as fast as them. But then he goes a little faster.
Yeah.
And he does it because the whole time people talk about like, you're not going to be able to reach the speed. You've maxed out. It's impossible. But he goes a little bit faster.
Yep. And it's all because
every season.
It's all because right when things seem the darkest, right as the music starts to swell, whoever would be the most relevant and impactful character in the moment says, "Run, Barry, run!" And he hears it in his earpiece, and he's like, "That motivates me." And then he runs. He runs, Barry runs, and he goes a little bit faster.
Yeah. That whoever there's, it must be some creature or the Speed Force itself. It works through people saying, "Run, Barry, run."
Yeah.
Well, once that happens, it imbues more Speed Force into Barry.
The Speed Force works in mysterious ways.
Yes.
Is that something that's ever been explored, like with any depth in DC? Like, have there ever been any religious orders founded around the Speed Force?
There has to have been. If not, I would be surprised. Yeah, like you would think there would be, like at least speedsters. Some speedsters worshiping the Speed Force.
I would be interested in DC. Hit me up. I'll write this title. I adore the Flash. I want to write a title that takes place like 1,000 years in the future. Speedsters are an entire sub race of people, and they worship the Speed Force. And I'll make it about like the Flash's like quadruple great granddaughter or something. And
yeah, because you could have speedsters worshiping the Speed Force, and then underlings, or just like maybe not even underlings of the speedsters, just like people that know of this thing but don't know all about it, and yet they basically form a cult around the Speed Force, just like regular people essentially, who are now kind of bad guys because they have the Speed Force cult.
And like Barry is like Speed Force Jesus, Speedsus.
Yeah.
And like he originated the energy, and now we have it.
Yeah, and you have people who remember how Barry used the Speed Force and how he talked about it and taught about it, and through the generations it gets muddled down, and some few still understand and hang on to those teachings, whereas now there are different clans and tribes, cultish speed force cults and stuff like that, to where
you can
people...
even have a really evil one that worships Eobard Thawne instead of Barry Allen.
Yeah. Well,
they
you
view
have
him as the true avatar of the Speed Force.
Yeah, you have some that misinterpret Barry's use of the Speed Force, but still cling on to his words. They just misinterpret it, and they raise their arms up together and connect it and say, "Speedsters are strong. Speedsters are strong."
They all chant, "Run, Barry, run." Run, Barry, run.
Yeah. No, that would be a good idea for Flash stuff.
Yeah. Heck
At
yeah.
least like a Black Label book. You don't have to put in continuity. It can just be a Black Label thing.
Oh no, absolutely not. I wouldn't want this in continuity.
Yeah.
But I would absolutely write it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is totally an Elseworlds thing, like distant future.
Yeah.
Like this is not the future the DC universe is building towards. This is just a cool idea.
Yeah. If you write it though, they're just going to put it as Black Label.
Yeah.
And DC, how they always work, they'll go off of the fan reception. Yeah. If fans absolutely love it, whether you like it or not, this is going to be put into continuity by DC. If fans are so on it or don't like it, it's Black Label. It's Elseworlds. It's its thing over there. That's how the Black Label works. Is it's sure it's not continuity until it is. Until people like it.
Yeah. Batman only has a ding dong if people like it. All right, I got one last thing to talk about before we close it for the day. I feel like I caught my second wind somewhere within the past hour and a half. Nice. Like I was weirdly low energy when we started the episode, but now I'm like, whoa, I'm going. So this also makes me really lament the amount of money I have, because I wish I could afford a next generation console. But I was just looking at the Xbox Live Store for fun to see if I could find a topic to discuss while we were going over stuff earlier, and I found something. And I don't know if this is going to be super relevant to a whole lot of people outside of myself. Brandon, are you familiar with the Life is Strange video game series?
Yeah. I don't know if I don't think I played the first one.
I've only played the first one, and I always meant to get around to the sequels. I never have. Well, the fourth game in the series is coming out in October.
Okay.
I believe, and it's only for the next generation. It's not for the generation of consoles that I have.
Yeah. Us plebs.
But the thing is, the main character from the first one is back. She's the main character again. The new one is called Double Exposure. It's a photography reference, because she was the photographer. And it looks really interesting, and the new powers she gets, as explained by the synopsis, seem really interesting, because the description here on the Xbox Live Store says, hang on, let me scroll down to it. All right, I'm just going to read the description real quick.
Okay.
Max Caulfield, photographer in residence at the prestigious Caledon University, or maybe it's pronounced Caledon. I don't know. I'm going with Caledon though, because it sounds like a dinosaur. Discovers her closest new friend, Safi, dead in the snow, murdered.
Oh no!
To save her, Max tries to rewind time, a power she's not used in years. Instead, Max opens the way to a parallel timeline where Safi is still alive and still in danger. Now, parallel timelines are something that Max has experience with in the first game anyway. I don't know how much of the first game you remember, or even if you finished it.
No, I don't remember.
Max realizes the killer will soon strike again in both versions of reality.
Oh.
With her new power to shift between two timelines, can Max solve and prevent the same murder?
Okay.
So yeah, it's and then here's the segmented bit of it. Ordinary girl, extraordinary power. Max is thrust into a thrilling supernatural murder mystery, more dangerous than ever before. More dangerous than the one where she literally got kidnapped by an obvious like creeper. Anyway,
yes, more dangerous than that.
Traverse two timelines, forge allies, and pursue suspects across two versions of reality, shaping both timelines through unforgettable choices. You see, in the first game, you could only shape the one timeline because now you have two different realities to affect.
Okay.
Race against time. A relentless detective has Max in his sights, and Safi's killer grows closer with every clue uncovered. Can Max survive long enough to do the impossible? Well, she's already rewinding time, so I'd say that's pretty impossible.
Yeah.
Decide the fate of Caledon. Explore two versions of a vivid winter campus, each packed with clues, secrets, and tough decisions. That's interesting. It was autumn in the first game, so that'll be a fun new aesthetic to explore. Okay. One of the things I love about Life is Strange is just like the overall autumn vibe of it, because autumn's my favorite season.
Yeah.
Exclusive soundtrack, a rich original score, new songs, and thrilling licensed tracks. I wonder if it'll be like a bunch of like indie stuff like the first game was.
Okay, so music does play a big role in this?
I mean, music is present. It's a part of the identity, but it's not like a huge... It's not like music is part of the story, typically.
Okay. I just didn't know with them mentioning the music stuff.
Yeah, no, like music is part of the appeal, but like it's more for the vibe than anything.
Okay. That makes sense. I was just making sure, like, the reason to include the detail about the music. That makes sense, though.
Yeah, Life is Strange, the original game, had like a sort of like a low-budget indie soundtrack to go with the low-budget indie vibe of the game overall.
Okay.
And so like that just kind of became a part of the series' overall identity.
I gotcha.
Because like Life is Strange is generally about people. It's a really, really grounded approach to superpowers. And like, I don't mean grounded as in like the superpowers are super grounded. I mean just like they are like the people have generally pretty real reactions to it, and no one's first thought is I'm gonna go be a superhero now.
Right.
It's all very like, this is weird, I don't know how it works, and if I can figure out how to use it to my advantage, I will, but like I don't want to mess with it. Like that was Max's like kind of overall thought process, and eventually she just does mess with it because she's in the player's control and the player wants to mess with it. But
yeah.
But like a huge part of the game though is that like Max is like, for the first one, Max is rushing towards this ending that she has no idea what her powers are doing to the ending of the story, basically.
Yeah.
She has no idea how she's actually affecting the world around her until basically the final episode, because it was released episodically. And she has no idea what her powers are doing until the final episode, when all of a sudden she is bouncing through timelines, trying to get back to the one she belongs in, to fix everything. And eventually she's faced with a decision, because no matter what she does, a giant tornado is going to obliterate the town she lives in. And there's even a sequence in the game where the storm has reached the town and Max is doing her best to try and use her powers to save as many people as she can. But the thing is, like, her powers have some pretty severe limitations, and sometimes just quit out on her.
Oh, okay.
It's
down at that moment.
Yeah, it's like it's the developer's excuse for like railroading the player into certain story moments so that like you can't just rewind.
Yeah.
But you know, it's the game has like enough of that sort of, I don't want to say Twin Peaks because it's not like quite surreal like that. But it's got that like Northwest Pacific fantasy vibe, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay.
You know what I mean, like like the Northwest Pacific coast of America has this really specific vibe that lends itself well to weird grounded fantasy.
Yeah.
And so like that's just kind of the vibe that Life is Strange leans into. And so like by the end of the game, Max kind of realizes that for whatever reason, there is only one way to prevent that storm from destroying the town, and that's to rewind all the way back to the moment she first used her powers to save her childhood friend from getting shot and killed in the girls' bathroom at school.
So just let her die.
Just let her die, and that choice is left in the player's hands.
Oh, okay.
Like you get to it's another one of those things where it's like none of the other choices in the game actually mattered. It's just this last choice, but at the same time though, it's like it's about the journey. Whatever, shut up.
Yeah. Have you, this ties into it some, have you ever seen The Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher?
I've not, but I know how it ends.
Yeah, I was about to say, it feels, I know it's different. It is different. It feels a lot like The Butterfly Effect.
Butterfly Effect probably had an influence on Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Life is Strange tends to wear its influences on its sleeve anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, the whole like ending type thing of like having to go back to the beginning and essentially stop this thing that you originally tried to stop. Yeah. Stop you from stopping, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. And I when I played the game, I made the choice to let Chloe die. Because it seemed like that was the one that makes the most sense in the long run. Like you gotta save as many people as you can, and like after a certain point, it was just like this girl's dying. There's no, like her life is gonna end up pretty bad no matter what, because if you like survive with her, the two of them just kind of like drive away from the town together. It's like, cool, you and your girlfriend survive, but like what now? But like if you let her die, then you know there's a funeral scene at the very end, and it's does a last little like, you know, musical vignette sort of thing, and then it ends with like a butterfly landing on Chloe's coffin while Max looks at it, because the butterfly there was like a butterfly in the bathroom when Max was in there in the first place, and she tried to take a picture of it. And then that's when like Chloe bursts in and Max hides and everything happens. But so like that butterfly has something to do with it. It's a symbol for obvious reasons, you know, like you said, butterfly effect. So yeah, and that's like the first game is all of that. So now this new game, as far as I'm aware, the first actual direct sequel to the original Life is Strange is coming out this year. And looking at it, it's one of those things where it's like looking at Max's like new design, 'cause she's older now, right?
Right.
I think she was like 18 in the first game anyway, but she's older now, and it's like I feel conflicted because I never thought of Max as like hot.
Oh yeah.
But like looking at her new design, it's like I feel like I'm not supposed to be attracted to this character. She's like a little sister, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like a childhood friend.
Yeah.
Y'all, one of y'all moves away, and then eventually, you come together, like at a reunion or whatever.
Yeah.
And you see her, you're like, oh my gosh, like I shouldn't feel this way. We were friends, but you're so hot.
Yeah, right? It's just, yeah, it's like I'm not supposed to think this character is hot. Like, she was cute in the first game. Like as cute as a somewhat uncanny, a little bit jankily designed independent video game character can be.
Right.
I mean, that first game was well enough put together. But yeah, but now it's like, because the thing is, Life is Strange has gotten more popular as it's gone on. So like, I believe it gets like higher budgets with each new entry. So they have the money and stuff to like put into making it look that much prettier every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but now it's like, Max, you're not supposed to look like a woman. You look like a little girl in the first game. So yeah, it's one of those things like that's a mild conflict. And usually the complaint from video game nerds is that the female characters aren't hot enough.
Yeah. Now it's like, no, stop.
Stop. I'm not supposed to think she's attractive. I'm supposed to think she's kind of cute and leave it at that.
Yeah. This is someone I grew up with. Just leave it at that.
Like, this is a girl whose Tinder profile I would absolutely swipe right on. She checks every single box, visually speaking.
So, will this game would be the thing that eventually gets you to upgrade?
Well, I don't know. It really depends on how much money I have. Because I would have upgraded by now if I could have afforded it.
I gotcha.
I would have upgraded a long time ago. But Brandon, I'll share a little secret with you. I'm poor.
Say it ain't so.
I'm
there as well. I would like to get. I don't play video games as much anymore, so that's also like a priority thing in terms of like $400, $500. Like, what would I rather spend that on, or what is better for me to spend on?
Yeah, exactly.
And oftentimes it's like 2 years of going to the movie theater, I guess.
Yeah.
To see some crappy movies sometimes.
Yeah. For me, it's like I still play video games often enough to consider the upgrade.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's for me, it would be worth it in the long run. Even though I don't get as much time to play them anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, and right now I could afford to play the other 3 Life is Strange games that came out on the previous console generation if I save up for a couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
Kind of round out the anthology, because the thing is, a prequel and 2 sequels have been released since the first game.
Okay.
And the thing is, the prequel is as far as I know, the only one to feature lead characters that don't have superpowers.
Okay.
Because it's about Chloe, the friend who gets shot in the first game, and her friend Amber, and like establishing the relationship between those two, so that Amber's disappearance in the first game makes more sense, or well, like it makes more of an impact. Because the thing is, Amber, I think Amber was her name. It was, she had like 2 first names, but her disappearance is the core mystery of that first game. And Max and Chloe are trying to solve it through the entire first game. And you never actually see her on screen for that game.
Okay.
Because, spoiler alert, they find her dead body buried in a junkyard.
Right.
And then it becomes a murder mystery after that, no longer a missing persons case. But yeah, so but like that prequel, which I think is shorter than the first game, but the prequel it's about Chloe and Amber's like relationship and how they developed a bond. I've never played it, but I've seen enough about it, It came out during one of the more recent actors strikes, like it was being developed during that. So Ashley Birch was not able to reprise her role as Chloe for the prequel. Which are you familiar with Ashley Birch as an actress?
Not sure. I mean, I've probably seen some of the stuff she's done.
Did you watch
or has been in.
Do you watch Attack on Titan subbed or dubbed?
Subbed. Or no, sorry, dubbed.
Dubbed.
Sorry.
Okay, so you do watch it in English.
Yeah.
She is the voice of Sasha.
Oh, okay.
She's also. Have you ever played Borderlands?
Yeah.
She's Tiny Tina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's in a bunch of stuff, mostly video games from what I know. But
yeah.
She's also the sister.
She voiced
Chloe,
the daughter of Johnny Cage and what's her face from Mortal
she's
Kombat.
the voice. She's the voice of Cassie Cage.
Yeah.
I did not know that. She's also the sister of Anthony Birch, the dungeon master for the first 2 seasons of Dungeons and Daddies,
Okay.
as well as a writer, I think, on the most recent God of War game. Anthony Birch also recently wrote a porno, because and I know about that because he talks about it on Dungeons and Daddies.
Is that like her husband or?
That's her brother.
Oh, brother. Okay,
Oh no,
gotcha.
I believe Ashley Birch. I'm not 100% on this, but I believe Ashley Birch is gay.
Okay, I got you.
I'm not 100. I think. I don't
Gotcha.
know, man. I don't know. I don't know who's gay and who's not anymore.
Yeah.
For all I know, that guy in that little window in my bathroom I see every day could be gay.
Yeah.
You know the little window
Yeah.
in the bathroom where the little guy in there mimics your every move?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that guy.
That guy. I don't know what
Yeah.
he's up to. He's always watching me.
Yeah, he's always staring at me, and then I turn around, and I try to glance a little bit, but he's also glancing.
Yeah.
Tired of that guy.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I got to live up to my little subtitle there.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good time. And that's fitting because before the show, I did that. Ending the show, you're going to do that.
Yeah.
It's very fitting. All right. So I have been Brandon.
And I have been Teo.
And now we're not. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Toodaloo.